Good day! This is Teacher Rowan. I'll be your guide in exploring Google Apps for education, for teaching and learning. In Google for Education, teachers can connect and collaborate easily while staying on task. It gives teachers the freedom to spend more time personalizing the learning experience and less time managing it. Students can learn essential skills such as 21st century problem solving, which they can use it in their future careers. As such, the accessibility features will also help and assist every learner to do their best work. Google offers different useful applications that we can use to connect education to technology. This will help our teachers as a 21st century educators to innovate and find ways on how to make teaching and learning more exciting, engaging, effective, and flexible to the demands of the society. Let's re-explore the education experience by discovering new angles to create, collaborate, and communicate as one. Para sa bata, para sa bayan, at para sa guro. Ang pagkatuto, huwag gawing komplikado. Sulong edukalidad.
Magandang araw, Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETUlay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETUlay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng ICT's Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del B. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na Pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETUlay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Ayan, welcome po ulit sa ating isa na namang edisyon ng ETUlay. Ngayon naman po para sa Mathematics 9. Ako po ang inyong makakasama ngayong Math Talino Friday. Ako po ang inyong tutor for Math 9. Ako po si Tutor Janet. So for this week, so ating pong nabanggit na kanina during our earlier session na tayo po ay nasa huling linggo na ng mga sessions natin. So as early as now, baka maubusan ako ng oras, magpapasalamat na ako sa mga lagi nating nakakasama. Palagi ko po nababasa yung mga taga Doña Magdalena Gafford High School. Okay? So, ayan, nag-hello po uli sila. So, hello po uli, Tutor Janet. So, kasama uli natin si kagaya ng masigabo nilang or masugid nilang pagsubaybay, si Joshua at saka si Gabriel nandito uli. Kasama nila si Jonaline Peralta, also from Doña Magdalena Gafford High School, si Jonaline. At si Julian Similyari, na suki rin natin dito sa Math 9. Okay, so shout out sa inyong mga taga Doña Magdalena H. Gafford High School sa Etchague District. So sabi ni Gabriel, nagpakilala siya, tsaka si Joshua, si Joshua ay taga Lalo National High School, nabanggit ko na yan, sa STO Cagayan. So welcome ulit. Salamat sa pagsunod ninyo hanggang dito sa ating isa pang o broadcast naman para sa grade 9 at si Gabriel ay sa kanyang comment kanina, so isa sa mga pinakaunang bumati ng good afternoon sa akin. Sabi niya, siya ay from San Agustin Elementary School, Quezon City, grade 6, ay Einsteinium. Ayan. So welcome sa inyo po mga nakakasama namin ng masugid talaga naman para sa pagkakatuto. Hindi talaga, learning never stops dito sa DepEd Edtech Unit. So atin na i-mention ano-ano po ba yung mga kailangan nating i-discuss para sa ating Week 7 ng ika-4 na markahan. So since nung nakaraan napag-usapan natin yung Law of Science, so for this session, ano po yung ating gagawin? We will be finding the measure of a part of a triangle using the cosine law. So, magpo-proceed na tayo, move forward na tayo from sine to the cosine function. So, what is that lesson called? We are going to apply the cosine law. And then, later on po, if we have enough time, we will be also solve an oblique triangle. Okay, so we will be solving an oblique triangle. So, whenever, so ano yung mga cases? Dalawa lang yung cases na pag-uusapan natin ngayong hapon na to. Unlike nung nag-sine law tayo, medyo marami tayong kinonsider na case. So, for this cosine law, dalawang case lang yung kailangan nating pag-usapan. So, there are two sides and the included angle given. While yung isa pa ay all the sides, all the three sides of the triangle are given. So, we will only be dealing with problems wherein naka-mention na dalawang sides at yung included angle ang given or tatlong sides or SSS ang given. Bakit? Kasi ang ating pag-uusapan ay nga pong cosine law. So, nung nakaraan, balikan lang natin as a review, ano yung ating mga kinonsider for sine law. Isa-isahin natin yung, sabi ko, mas maraming cases na law of sines are being applied. So, ito po yung una, kapag ang given ay two angles and the included side, or ang ating acronym for that is ASA. Sumunod, pinag-usapan din natin na pwede rin yung dalawang angle sa isang side, pero hindi in that order na ASA. So, pwedeng two angles and one of the side opposite these angles. So, ang tawag natin doon ay SAA or AAS sa ibang libro, AAS, two angles and any side opposite one of these angles. Nung grade 8 kayo, pinag-usapan natin yan. So, for grade 8, pinag-uusapan nyo lagi yung ano ba yung mga theorems on congruence. So, ginagamit natin yung mga mnemonic na SAS, ASA, AAS, at saka SSS. So, it transcends, no? Na-carry over natin siya ngayon. So, kasi nga talagang malaking kaugnayan ng geometry ng grade 8 sa ating pinag-uusapan ngayon. Later on, i-describe ko po yan as we go along with our session. So, last week din, nagkaroon tayo ng mga ambiguous case for SSA. Meron tayong dinescribe na dalawang ambiguous case for SSA. This is the case wherein merong no solution or possibly merong dalawang solution. Okay, kaya medyo mahaba yung naging discussion natin sa law of sines. Now, for the cosine law, how are we going to start with it? So, ang ating pong cosine law ay ginagamit sa ganitong case. So, sabihin nyo, ma'am, bakit hindi pwede? Or tutor, bakit hindi pwede yung law of sines kapag SAS triangle ang nakaprovide? So, kaya natin tinatawag yung, I labeled it as triangle, or I name it rather as triangle A, B, C. So, ang label niya ay point A yung nasa vertex A to, tapos yung nasa tuktok ay B, and then C is on the other end of the base. So, bakit natin sinasabi na SAS yan? Kasi, ang given ay yung length ng AB, tapos yung katabi niya na BC. So, and the included angle of AB and BC is angle B. So, angle ABC ang included angle, kaya ang tawag natin dyan ay SAS. Now, the question is, bakit hindi natin pwedeng magamit ang SAS? Okay, so remember, sa sine law, the law of sines, gumagamit tayo ng proportion. So, wala tayong mabubuong proportion kung wala tayong information about the side opposite angle B. Kasi remember, ang proportion natin ay sine A over A is equal to sine B over B is equal to sine C over C. So, kailangan natin ng dalawang ratio. So, kung wala tayong mabubuong dalawang ratio doon sa ating information, therefore, hindi mag-work ang law of sines. So, kagaya ng example natin ngayon, no side opposite one of the angle na given ang provided. So, we cannot form any proportion because of that. So, doon ngayon pumapasok yung the cosine law. Okay? So ayan, habang pinapakita ko sa screen, kailan ba natin pwedeng gamitin yung cosine law? So, nabanggit naman yan sa objectives. Akin muna pong isa-shout out ang ating mga makakasama ngayong huling session natin. So welcome po sa mga kararating lang from Baliwag North Central School. Yan, meron din tayong nakasama from Grade 4 Del Pilar at 3 Acacia. So sila ay sina Amberlyn Paris Israel at si Brad Israel. So good afternoon po kay Ma'am Judilyn Soberano Israel. So kasama rin natin si Impang Daling Alma. Good day, Ma'am. At si Mitzi Calderon Albalos. Shout out sa mga kasama ni Mitzi, ni Ma'am Mitzi Calderon Albalos. Hindi lang siya nag-mention kung saan school siya. At atin din kasama ngayon from Doña Magdalena Gafood High School. Sa grade, suki natin mga sections yan, yung Libra, Capricorn, Aries. So, like ko nababasa yan. So, Tristan Angelo Blanella, siya ay taga grade 9 Libra. At kasama niya rin mula sa Doña Magdalena Gafood High School, si Angelica Glo Romero. So, good afternoon, Angelica Glo Romero. She is watching also from Doña Magdalena Gafood High School. Yan po ay sa Isabela. Okay. So, ayan, nakita niyo po, as described natin, so kailan natin magagamit yung cosine law? Okay, so doon sa objectives natin, minention ko na magsusolve tayo ng triangle such that the given includes two sides and yung angle na nasa gitna nila, okay, o tinatawag natin included angle, okay, or the case na ang ating given triangle, ang naka-label ay yung bawat sides. Okay? So there are only, as I emphasized, ito lamang yung dalawang case na mas madaling mag-start agad tayo sa cosine law. Okay? So only when we have, ang acronym natin sa unang case ay SAS, at doon naman sa all sides, SSS. Okay? Na siya na rin yung ginagamit in the past. Okay? So good afternoon, Joshua. So ayan, sabi niya, two sides, and an angle na. Dapat kasama yun kasi hindi pwedeng incomplete yung given. So, remember, sa both cases, nag-work yung ating solution for oblique triangle kung meron tayong 3 parts na naka-label doon sa triangle. So, for SAS, we are not only just provided 2 sides, but the 2 sides and the included angle. And for SSS, tatlo rin, all the 3 sides. Okay? So, very good ka naman, Joshua, na na-mention mo yung pagkakaiba ng SAS sa SSS. Sa SAS, dalawang yung sides na given, while dun sa pangalawang case, tatlong sides yung given. Okay. Yan. So, atin ang i-introduce. Okay, paano ba natin madederive yung cosine law? Okay, this was included in the module. So, maraming salamat sa pagmamadali ko kanina, hindi ko nabanggit. So, amin pong pinasasalamatan ng aming mga nagpo-provide ng module. So, shout out sa mga taga SDO Negros Oriental, Region 7. So, maraming salamat po na hanggang ngayon na tayo po ay nasa Week 7 ng Quarter 4 for Matalino Friday. Hindi po ninyo kami pinabayaan. So, binigyan niyo po kami ng permission na magamit ang inyong module as the basis of our tutorial session. Ayan. So let us now show the derivation. Ito yung derivation na makita rin natin sa module for the cosine law. Okay, so mapapansin niyo pag nakita niyo na yung lahat ng formula, mayroon siyang, it will remind you of another theorem na diniscuss natin sa grade 9 sa umpisa ng ating trigonometry. So later on, we will try to discuss that. So ano yung ating illustration dito? Meron tayong oblique triangle. Again, I will use the letters A, B, C, but this time I place C as the nasa tuktok. So we have triangle A, B, C na oblique siya. Pero within the oblique triangle, gagawa tayo ng composite figure so that we have a right triangle na naka-shade na blue. Okay? So we are now, our task for us to derive the cosine law is we are going to write the Pythagorean theorem for the shaded triangle. So write an equation rather that is based from the Pythagorean theorem. So paano natin pwedeng maggamit yung Pythagorean theorem sa ating derivation? Okay? So kasi ang ating shaded na triangle, yung isa sa mga composite figure na na-form sa loob ng oblique triangle natin ay may hypotenuse na A. Di ba po? Ayan. So kung ito yung ating consider, we have a right triangle whose hypotenuse is A. So that is why, by Pythagorean theorem, we will have the equation A squared is equal to, okay, so paano natin i-represent yung H? So in our previous lesson sa sine law, sabi natin, the height na opposite ng angle A, okay, yung angle A dito sa bandang kaliwa, ay equal to B times sine of that angle. So therefore, if you want to square H, okay, kasi siya nga yung H square plus, yun kasi yung kailangan natin, di ba? H square, yung ating vertical side ng right triangle. So it's just simply B times sine of angle A, quantity squared. Okay? Plus, okay, so ito yung medyo more complex dun sa first term. So, meron tayong C minus. So remember, yung C na tinutukoy ko po dyan is the side, the third side ng oblique triangle. Yun yung buong horizontal side, or we can represent it as AB. The whole length AB is C. So, kailangan nating ibawas yung hindi nakasamang adjacent, okay? Adjacent side nung sa angle A. Okay, so that is why we use cosine sa kabila. So that's why we have C minus, or the quantity rather, of C minus B times cosine A quantity squared. So remember, Pythagorean theorem, sabi natin, the hypotenuse, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the two sides. So ang representation natin dun sa H, na isa sa mga side ng right triangle, ay B sine A. So square that, we have that. Plus, yung atin namang segment lang, subsegment ng side AB is denoted by C minus B cosine A, and then we square that, so quantity squared. And then we try to expand. So using our previous knowledge on, especially dun sa second term na mas mahaba, perfect square trinomial. So dito sa first, we just distribute the squaring. So we have B squared sine A squared plus, okay, yung ating trinomial na nakita nyo dyan, yung C squared minus 2BC cosine A plus B squared cosine squared A is actually derived from the perfect square trinomial or the expanded of that. And then, para mas masimplify yan, pa-factor natin by grouping, i-ready natin siya for factoring by grouping, pagsasamahin natin yung parehas na may B squared. Okay? So, yung parehas na may plus sign. So, B squared sine squared A plus B squared cosine squared A. So, we are preparing that for a possible simplification by factoring by grouping. And then, naka-separate yung last term natin minus 2BC cosine A. And then, as an advanced knowledge, okay, sa inyong mga darating pang trigonometry, you will learn that sine squared A plus cosine squared A is actually equal to 1. So, yung ating previous na nakuha nung ready tayo for factoring by grouping will be simply like this. No? So, from B squared times the common factor na sine, rather, B squared is the common factor, tapos yung natirang binomial is sine squared A plus cosine squared A plus C squared minus 2BC cosine A, and then simplifying, so yung nasa parenthesis, according dun nasa advanced knowledge na siya kasi hindi natin yan madidiscuss ngayong grade 9, but you should know this, one of the 8 fundamental trigonometric identities. Pag pinag-add mo raw yung sine squared A plus cosine squared A according to one of these identities, that is just equal to 1. So that's why pwede na siyang simply B squared plus C squared minus, bring down yung minus 2BC cosine A. And that is already one of the equation na pwede nating makuha for the cosine law. Okay. So, sabi ni Ma'am Maylene, yan, para to break the monotony, shout out tayo sa mga taga Baloling Elementary Teaching Force from Pangasinan. Ayan, welcome po sa mga taga Mabandan District. Ma'am Maylene, salamat po sa panonood or pakikiisa dito sa ating session sa ETUlay, sa ating huling actual discussion for week 7. Ayan. So similarly, so kung ating titingnan, meron na tayong isang formula. So this is actually a formula that we have derived para tawagin natin unang equation for the cosine law. So similarly, magkakaroon tayo ng dalawa pang formula. Okay, so tingnan nyo yung derivation ng bawat or how the formula develops from a squared, yung dinerive ko kanina po, na a squared is equal, yung hindi ko pa dinerive, I do not own the credit for the derivation. So I should be saying na yung pinakita ko po na derivation for the formula for a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2cb or 2bc, kung in standard way, we arrange it alphabetically. So 2b muna bago c. So 2bc times cosine a, makikita ninyo yung pagbabago-bago ng ating formula. Pag b naman ang hinahanap, so we will be using b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ac times cosine b. And then lastly, for the side, kung halimbawa side c yung hinahanap, we will be using the formula c squared is equal to b squared plus a squared minus 2ab times cosine c. So, napapansin niyo po ba may pattern, no? So, para siyang, yun yung binabanggit ko kanina. So, since ang ating pong formula ay na-derive natin from Pythagorean theorem, so when you try to look at the three formulas that were listed here, may pagkakahawig siya sa Pythagorean theorem. Pero ano po yung pattern? So, in terms of the pattern, ano yung mapapansin natin na pattern dito? So, similarly, ang mapapansin natin na pattern kasi ay yung ating, yan po. Yung ating equation, nag-i-involve siya. Let's say, ang unknown ay A. So, ang ini-involve natin ay angle A doon sa ating cosine. So, kung ang unknown ay B, ang ini-involve natin na multiplier na angle ay cosine B. Okay? And for C, ganun din. So, we have that. So, it is therefore helpful for us to remember that the angle reference in our cosine law is across the equal sign from its corresponding side. So what does we mean by this? So kung ang reference angle natin ay C, so dapat it's because we are solving for C. So kung ang reference natin ay angle B, so it's because we're solving for B. Or vice versa, kung hinahanap natin ay angle B, so kailangan mag-i-involve tayo ng B squared sa ating umpisa or sa isa sa mga terms ng ating formula. Okay, so that's very important. So I will repeat it. Remember that as a hint, we are giving the information na the angle reference in the cosine law is across, so nasa kabila siya ng equal sign from its corresponding side. So that's why kapag angle naman yung hinahanap, okay, so ayan na yung ating derivation kanina. So pag angle naman yung hinahanap, let's say angle A, okay, we have this formula. Cosine A is equal to A squared minus B squared minus C squared divided by negative 2BC. Okay, so yan yung ating magiging, kaya yun yung sinasabi natin na kung angle A ang ating hinahanap, so ang across niya will be the side A. Okay, so yun yung, kumbaga naiiba yung sign, yung side, yung B squared tsaka C squared, parehas sila ng sign, pero yung A squared yung naiiba. Okay, so therefore, kapag naman cosine B ang ating nasa leftmost side ng equation, ito ang ating formula, cosine B is equal to B squared minus A squared minus C squared divided by negative 2AC. Okay, so ayan. Pansinin nyo rin yung pattern. May pattern pa rin even sa angle. And lastly, pag angle C ang kailangan nating makuha, we will be using the equation cosine C is equal to C square minus A square minus B square, or pwedeng baliktad, C square minus B square minus A squared all over negative 2AB. Okay, so yun yung anim na formula all in all na ating pag-uusapan. Ayan. Okay, so may bago tayong kasama, si Machi Estember. Good afternoon. So, I hope samahan mo ako dito hanggang huli, Machi. So, habang ating ini-explore ang cosine law. Okay, so we use the cosine law to find the missing angle or an angle and side. Okay, so remember that. So, let us have an example. Okay, let's say we want to find the measure of side Y, okay, yung XZ. So which appears, although XZ yung tawag sa kanya, it appears to be the longest side. So we are given that the length of XY is 35 and the length of YZ is 30 and the angle between, yung kapag yung included angle na XYZ ay 110 degrees. So in other words, because our case here is SAS, alam agad natin na sa example na to, I'm giving already the example for our second objective, pwede na nating ma-solve yung triangle using the cosine law kasi naka-SAS yung ating triangle. So side, angle, side. So ano ang ating itatawag dun sa side XY? We will be calling that side Z. Okay? Kasi opposite siya ng angle Z. So yung YZ, ang itatawag natin doon, small letter x or side x is equal to 30. And the unknown, as what I said, kung hinahanap natin ay y, so that's why we have this equation. So, ma'am, parang nakakalito, or tutor, parang nakakalito naman yan. Kasi kanina ang binigay mo ay a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times cosine a. So, bakit ngayon na iba na? So, parang ano nyo lang, laruin nyo lang yung inyong, kumbaga, imagination na, kumbaga yung x yun yung A, yung y yung B. Okay, so kasi remember, sa trigonometry, yung mga labels na yan ay variable. So in fact, when you go to other levels of trigonometry, magkakaroon kayo ng iba pang tawag, alpha, beta, gamma. So because they are just variables, so pwedeng maiba-iba yung form ng ating equation. So dito lang, so ang ating ginagamit ay XYZ. So that would just be the same as ABC or alpha, beta, gamma. Okay, so if you're looking for Y, so the length of side Y, you have Y squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the two given sides, kasi SAS nga to, yung length ng side Z na 35 plus the square of side X na 30 minus 2ZX or 2XZ times the reference angle nga ng cosine, for cosine, which is cosine y. Okay, and then plugging in the values, we have, ayan, so we're solving already. So after we have chosen ano dun sa anim na formula na binigay ko yung mag-work, so ang next step is to plug in the values. Okay, so kailangan na natin ngayon ng calculator. So you have to, of course, ang aking presumption sa mga kasama ko nanonood ay meron tayong scientific calculator na ginagamit para we can do this with ease. So kasi kung direct algorithm yung calculator nyo, pwede nyo siyang i-solve dire-diretso. So let's say we want to evaluate y squared first. So according to our formula, it is z squared plus x squared minus 2xz or 2 times z times x times the cosine of our given angle y. So plugging in the values, we have 35 squared plus 30 squared, and we know that 35 squared plus 30 squared, okay, is equal to, ayan, 2,125 minus, ang 2 times 35 times 30 ay 70 times 30 or 2,100. So minus 2,100. Okay, so positive yung ating kalalabasan dyan. So we have 25. Okay, that is the value of 35 square plus, okay, I stand corrected. So bago natin pala siya, so we have to follow MDAS. So it's not 2,125 minus 2,100. So we have to do MDAS. So 2,125 minus 2,100 times the cosine of our reference angle, yung ating given na angle na 110. So times cosine 110. And of course, okay, ayan, nakita nyo na po, na-preempt ko na yung y squared. So ang sagot ay, parehas naman po sa ating mga calculator, it is approximately ni-round off ko na 2,843.24. Okay, so binigay ko lang dyan yung hanggang nearest 10,000s. But if we round it off to nearest hundreds, our answer is y squared is equal to 2,843.24. So yan ang kukunan natin ng square root. So we get the square root of 2,843.24. 24. And the answer is, okay, so kung pare-parehas tayo ng pagkaka-input sa ating calculator, so ang dapat na kalalabasan, y equals, yan, or y is approximately, kasi nga nag-round off na tayo doon, sa ginawa na natin siyang 2,843.24 na lang. So approximately, so we are just saying na y is approximately 53.3. So sabi dito, round the lengths to the nearest tenth, kaya ang sagot natin ay nearest tenth, 53.3, while later on, kapag susod na yung angle daw, round to the nearest degree. So yan po yung unang nakuha natin na sagot, 53.3. Okay, for ease of computation, ang susulat ko na lang is 53. Yan, so makita nyo sa figure ko, nag-round off na rin ako ng 53. Okay. So, similarly, kung gumagamit nga tayo ng kanina ng A, B, C, ayan yung ating, hindi ganyan yung ating formula. Pero now that we're using X, Y, Z, mapapansin nyo may pattern pa rin. So, across, so yung cosine X, ang ka-across niya ay X squared. Kung cosine Y yung pagkukuhanan natin, ang ka-reference angle, ang ka-across niya ay Y squared. And lastly, kung cosine Z, ang across niya na side ay yung for Z. So, yan din equivalent ng bawat equation. Kasi remember, when we were discussing in the beginning of our use of calculator, I introduced you to arc cosine. Ayan. Kaya yan yung final formula, yung nasa bandang kanan, yun yung final formula na gagamitin natin para sa next question. Kasi remember, the question is, we need to find not only the missing side, which is 53.3 or 53, but we're also tasked to find the missing angle. So, ang provider lang na angle ay y. So, alam na natin yung measure ng angle y, which is 110. So, we will need now to find the measure of angle x. Okay? So, to find the measure of angle x, okay, gamitin natin yung unang formula na binigay ko sa bandang kanan. So, x is equal to the inverse or arc cosine of the quantity x squared minus y squared minus z squared all over negative 2yz. So remember, sabi ko nga kung may calculator tayo, we can do it with ease na diretso na. So, ang aking kasing gamit na calculator ay direct algorithm siya. So I'll just press second function, cosine or arc cosine, tapos parenthesis. So don't forget na we are getting the inverse function noong buong formula natin na x squared minus y squared minus z squared all over negative 2yz. So, kailangan meron tayong parenthesis na gagamitin. So, we have to open it and close it with parenthesis. So, over, or rather parenthesis, so plug in na natin. So, papakita ko dito para makatulong para dun sa mga more on visual, makita nila kung paano ipa-plug in. Okay, so we have to find x. So it's the inverse of cosine function, plug in sa loob ng parenthesis, 30 squared, because that is our length for yz. So x is denoted by yz. So it's 30. So square that minus yung square naman ng xz na unknown kanina. No? Nasolve na natin siya. So sabi nga for ease in computation, so I deviate doon sa instruction. So I use 53, not 53.3. So 53 squared minus 35 squared divided by the product of negative 2 and the y and z. So which is 53 and 35. And of course, okay, gawin natin yan. So napindot ko na yung arc cosine. So parenthesis. So kailangan natin ng fraction. If you're using Casio, merong ganun na fraction, diba? So 30 square is 900 minus, so kaya magkakaroon tayo ng negative. So, negative yung numerator because negative din naman yung denominator. Okay, so some books would be introducing you yung formula na walang negative dun sa denominator. So, that's okay. So, pwedeng to find angle x, so ang gagamitin sa ibang libro will be y squared plus z squared minus x squared all over 2yz. Okay, they are just the same thing. So, doon sa akin ginagamit, so mas convenient for me na gamitin yung, para makita agad yung formula, gamitin ko yung ganito, na x agad yung nakasulat after the cosine. Okay? So we have, therefore, plugging in the value, so 900 minus 53 squared minus 35 squared. And that is equal to, okay, 900 minus 53 squared minus 35 squared is equal to negative 3,134. On the other hand, yung 70 times 53 ay negative din. No? Negative 2 times 53 times 35 is also negative. It's actually equal to, yan, negative 3,710. So therefore, ang ating kukunan ng inverse cosine or arc cosine ay yung fraction na negative 3,134 divided by negative 3,710. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so of course, arc cosine or inverse cosine, then use the parenthesis. Okay, tapos sa mga gumagamit ng Casio, na hindi ko sa pinopromote kasi yung talagang available na calculator. So meron talagang mga icon for fraction. So kailangan niyo siyang gamitin kapag ang hinahanap niyo ay angle. Kasi we are using the ratio of, in this case, 3,134 over 3,710. But I'm not saying, of course, na hindi pwede yung division. Okay, ang importante lang doon, ginugroup mo together yung magkasama yung division for 3,134 and 3,710. And then we just press the answer or the equal sign, and our answer is approximately 32.3554 dito sa akin. Pero since sabi nga natin, sa direction, round off to the nearest degree, so our answer is 32.4 or approximately 32 degrees. So lahat naman ng yan ay hindi exact kasi from the very start nag-round off na tayo sa 53. So that's why yun ang importante na gumagamit tayo ng tamang symbol which is hindi equal pero approximately. So tama si Chino, sabi ni Chino, for angle X, pag ni-round off pa rin natin yan, it's 32 degrees. Okay, so in fact, nung time namin, flex ko lang, ang uso talaga nun ay hindi kami nagka-calculator but we refer to the trigonometric table para makuha kung ano ang inverse ng value na yon, which is yung decimal value ng 3,134 divided by 3,710. And then that's the time pa na makuha namin yung approximate value na 32 degrees. But with the aid of our calculator, no, with the use of arc, or inverse cosine, nakuha natin na agad-agad yung sagot. Okay? Ayan. Thank you, Chino, for being an active participant. So, ayan, nakuha niya na rin yung angle Z. So, I hope it's because, ito yung shortcut, no, to find the missing angle, yung angle Z. So, we simply take note of one of the things that you learned in your grade 8. I remember this kasi napapanood to Sir Joshua sa kanyang grade 8 tutorial session ng 3rd quarter. So, di ba, we have this so-called the interior angles of a triangle. So the sum of the interior angles of a triangle is always equal to 180. So kung meron na tayong measure ng angle Y, at saka kanina na-solve natin, angle X, so kaya nakuha ni Chino na 38. So yun, pinakita rin ni Chino yung complete solution sa comments. Very good, Chino. That's angle Z therefore is equal to 180 minus 110 minus 32. So the answer is, okay, 38. Now, pero meron parang kaming discrepancy ni Chino. Ang angle C niya, yun na siguro sa pagkaka-plug-in niya lang. Ang angle C niya dapat ay 180 minus 110 minus 32. Okay, so dapat, okay, dito ngayon, kukonect ko lang kasi this is an opportunity for us to articulate. Diba sa grade 8, meron kayong tinatawag na lesson ng 3rd quarter din na unequal sides and unequal angles theorem. So, yan, nag-agree si Chino na 32 pala. Tama ka, Chino. Okay, kasi dapat yung opposite na angle ng mas maiksi, which is YZ, okay, should be smaller than angle Z. So, ibig sabihin, nasa gitna lang yung angle Z kapag in-arrange mo sila from in decreasing order. So, from 110, susunod yung mas maliit ng measure ng angle Z. So 38, and then the smallest angle is the one opposite YZ, which is angle X. Kaya siya yung pinakamaliit na 32. So tama yung correction ni Chino sa kanyang sarili. So, he was able to note that, oops, 32 pala. So, tama naman si Chino. Okay, thank you, Chino, for commenting completely sa ating mga questions. Ayan. So, tingnan na natin ang ating susunod na gagawin. Okay? So, let's have our next slide. So, for our activity 1, yan, disarrange ko lang. So, nanggaling po ito. So, sabi ko nga, shout out sa mga taga-network kasi hanggang sa dulo, yun yung aking pinagbasihan naman ng aking mga exercises. So, ginamit ko yung activity na pinrepare nila doon. There are 5 questions in the activity for this module for cosine law. So, ang isa sa mga tanong doon, I think this is for 6 to 10, we have to determine based from this. Okay. So, para lang alam natin, cosine law yan, law of sines ang gagamitin ko dyan. So, based from the 5 question, kumuha lang ako ng 4. And then, alamin natin, kapag ganito yung given, should we apply cosine law or not? So, write Y if it can be applied, and N if it cannot. Okay, so I'll be waiting for your comments. So, unang-una uli, si Chino, ang ating keyboard warrior para sa week 7 ng quarter 4. Ang bilis ng sumagot. Sabi niya, YSSS. Okay, so, tingnan natin later on sa number 2. Ano ba ang ating gagamitin? Pwede ba ang cosine law? Yes or Y? Kung yes, and then N if no. Okay. At anong case siya? So, tama yung pinakita ni Chino. Ganun dapat yung magiging pattern ng sagot. And then, of course, number 3 and 4, na-preempt ko siya. Ayan. Ayan siya. So, again, we have triangle ABC with a given label. So, side B is 6.8. Okay, we are given 2 angles. Okay? 2 angles yung given pala dito. So then, number 4, okay, we are given side A, at yung katabi niya na side B, and the angle in between them. So let's have our answer for number 1. Ayan. So si Chino uli yung sumagot sa 1 and 2. So sabi niya, for both cases, yes. Okay, let's try to check. Okay. Tama naman siya sa sagot niya sa number 1. Sabi niya, SSS kasi siya. So we can use the cosine law. So it can be applied since this is a triangle given all its sides. Okay? And then nagsagot na rin siya sa number 3. Yun yung nakita ko, mali yung na-prepare kung tama siya. Si Chino ay correct sa number 3. That should be a no, pero ang nailagay ko dito ay yes. So ito pala ay angle side. I was thinking of SAS again. So number 3 is the only one na no. Okay, so yun yung correction ko po dyan. I'll just edit it later on because we're running out of time. So, tama si Chino na sa number 3, it's a no because this is an example of SAS. Okay? And then, of course, number 4, nag-agree siya sa akin na yes uli or Y because this triangle includes SAS. Ayan. Si Chino ang ating nag-iisang nakasweep ng mga tamang sagot from the very start ng aking activities. Thank you, Chino. Okay, except lang dun sa nalito siya dun sa pagsusubtract ng 38 ba o 32. Okay, but all the rest, he was able to give the accurate answers that we need. In fact, yung correction ko ulitin ko. So, this is, I think, sa 1 to 5 na nasa problem dun sa module, or 6 to 10 ata to sa module, siya yung nag-iisang AAS or hindi nakasakop dun sa SAS and SSS. So, all the rest are applicable ang cosine law. Okay? Let's go now to our next activity. Okay? So, this time we are, so syempre, as part of our last objective, we should be able to solve entirely using cosine law lang. So, sa ganitong case, halimbawa, na ang ating given triangle ay RST. So, yan, shooter, nag-iba ka na naman ng letter kanina, ABC. Ngayon, RST. Okay, so I just want you to be more flexible doon sa kung anong angle ang i-reference ko. So, just take it na ang AIR, of course, di ba, sa letters of the alphabet, ang una ay R, followed by S, and then T. So, ganun, papalitan nyo lang yung formula ko kanina ng ABC into, plug in yung R, S, tsaka T. And then you will have voila, the formula for this question. So, ayan. So, ganito ang ating information na nakuha. All the sides were labeled na at may measure din siya. So, ang given measure ng ST is, or R, okay, 11. Ang sumunod sa R is S. Ang given length naman nung longest ay, in fact, is RT. So, side S is 13. At yung pinakamaikse ay RS. Okay, so 7. So, with this information, paano natin masusolve yung ating triangle? So, remember, when we're solving for the triangle, ang kailangan natin hanapin in this case ay hindi na yung mga sides. So, we need to use now yung second set ng formula na binigay ko. Kasi ginagamit lang natin yung unang formula, yung a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine a kapag side, isa sa mga side pa yung hahanapin. Pero since dito, ang hinahanap ay lahat ng angles, so yung second set yung ating gagamitin, which are, yun nga, yung may arc. Okay, we use the arc, in this case, arc R, arc cosine R, arc cosine S, and arc cosine T, for us to be able to find at least one of the angles muna. Okay, so let's say we want to find R first. Okay, so the length or the measure of R. Ayan. So we will be using therefore, napindot po, ayan, anything goes, pag live, ayan. So we'll be using therefore the formula that I gave. Okay, ito po yun. So kung halimbawa, cosine T ang gagamitin ko muna, cosine T. So to find angle T, I'll be using cosine T is equal to T squared minus the sum of S squared plus R squared all over negative 2RS. That can be, of course, translated into, so yung mas, sabi mo, diretsong ginagamit natin is yung gumagamit ng inverse cosine. So, T is equal to the inverse of the cosine function of the quantity, the same quantity, T squared minus the sum of S squared plus R squared all over negative 2RS. Okay, so I'll be waiting for your computation. So, for activity 2, I'll be allowing you to solve. So, ayan, ipapakita ko na yung how it is plugged in para you can practice with your calculator paano yung tamang order. So, remember, kailangan nating isunod sa tamang order of operation. So, pwedeng evaluate kung hindi direct algorithm yung inyong gamit na calculator, hindi siya, kumbaga, meron siyang ibang logic other than that. So, kailangan nyo munang evaluate yung nasa quantity and then press arccos. But in some cases, second function cosine na agad and then the T squared minus the quantity S squared plus R squared all over negative 2RS. So, plugging the values, papakita ko na siya, yan. So, we have, because T is 7, so yung shortest is side T, so 7 squared minus the sum of the squares of 13 and 11, so 13 squared plus 11 squared, all over negative 2 times 13 times 11. So, ano ang magiging sagot? Ayan, si Chino, nagsusolve siya. Okay, naunahan niya akong mag-solve. So, sabi niya 57.79 degrees. Okay, let's try to check if Chino's answer is correct. Okay, so don't forget, second function. So, because as what I said, I'm using DAL or direct algorithm logic. Ayan, so, I will press inverse function or shift cosine function of the quantity. Evaluate ko na siya, yung parenthesis 169 minus 120 plus all over the quantity of 26 times 11, okay, negative 26 times 11. Okay, tingnan natin. Ayan. Okay, so ayan, makikita na natin sa ating computation, that's the correct value that I have, negative 241 ang numerator, right? And the denominator is negative 286. Okay. And then, bakit magkaiba kami ng sagot ni? Sinuna niya kasi yung R. So, if you solve for R, your answer is 58 degrees. Okay? But if you solve for T, Okay, so para makuha natin yung R, tinan natin. So ang ginawa ko lang kasi ay sinubtract ko yung, pwede rin ganyan. No? So directly, kung R yung inuna mo, so independent naman siya ng solution. So parehas kami ng sagot ni Chino, so which is 58 degrees. Okay, so we have to remember that we don't use the equal sign, no? Kaya kasi nag-approximate na lang tayo dito dahil nag-round off tayo ng arc, ng value ng arc cos, okay, of the function, negative 97 over negative 182. So yun yung magiging comment ko lang kay Chino, that we don't use the equal sign but we are just saying it's approximately 57.79 degrees. Yan, pwede rin i-round off as 58 degrees because the direction says i-round off natin to nearest degree. Yan. Yan yung formula natin. Okay? And of course, so tama, yun yung reason kaya hindi tayo pwedeng magsulat ng equal sign. Kasi ang sagot ni Chino ay 89.63. Pero kung susundin natin yung direction, so we are just going to say na 180 minus 33 minus 58 is equal to 89. But since nung dinirection ni Chino, ang lumabas ay 89.63, which is pag ni-round off ay 90 degrees. Okay? Pag ni-round off mo rin yung tinasagot niya is 33 degrees. So, kaya yun po yung reason kaya very consistent na ang ginagamit natin for this ay approximately equal to a certain value. Okay, ayan. Sabi ni Chino, wala po kasing up niya. Thank you, Chino. Just the same, I'm just for the benefit of those who are going to watch this later on, so take note na sa pag-round off natin, maaring mag-exceed tayo sa 100, magiging 180 point something. It's because we rounded off. Kaya, to be fair or to be more precise, more precise than possible, as much as possible, mas maging precise tayo, yan yung ating final answer. So, the measure of angle S is approximately 89 degrees. Okay? So, ayan po. So, just in time. Okay, so ayan po ang aking cue na para mag-thank you. At imbitahan kayo to watch our next tutor for Math 10. So, patuloy niyo po kaming nagpasalamat na ako sa inyong masugid na pagsama sa amin hanggang sa dulo para sa, kahit na medyo complicated yung lesson natin. So, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagsama. Sa Math 9, ako po ang inyong tutor na nagpapaalam. At kayo ay akin ang iniimbitahan to watch or to wait for the next tutor uphill for Math 10. Patuloy niyo po kaming suportahan sa mga susunod pa naming mga endeavors dito sa DepEd Edtech Unit. At patuloy po kayong mag-subscribe, mag-share ng aming mga videos sa DepEd online YouTube channel and DepEd TV. Nagbo-broadcast din po ang DepEd Philippines. So, ng aming mga session sa ETUlay. So, maraming salamat po and kita-kits po tayo sa last natin na culminating or awarding or recognition for ETUlay for Math 9. So, up next po si Tutor Abdiel from STO Bataan. Maraming salamat po. Thank you, sir.